All right, just to confirm for my listeners who I have on the phone here, I got Mr. John B. Is that you, sir?
Yes, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you for taking the time. I've got some fun questions. I always like to start off with some fun ones, get to know you before I get into some industry, okay? Can you tell me,
go for it.
what was the first tape you ever purchased with your own money?
Um, Good question. I don't remember buying tapes, to be honest. I remember the first vinyls I ever bought. I can't remember which one was exactly the first. I bought a 12-inch single of some artist called Con Khan. There was some sort of, and there was this thing called Edelweiss as well. It was like a weird cover of an ABBA track, but with loads of samples. And then the first album I ever bought was by a singer called Jason Donovan. His album called 10 Good Reasons. It was just a pop album. He was in a soap opera called Neighbours in the UK that was really famous when I was a kid, and his all the songs and production was by this group called Stock Aitken and Waterman, who basically dominated the pop charts throughout my youth. Wrote all the stuff for Kylie Minogue and millions of other acts. But yeah, Jason Donovan, 10 Good Reasons, wicked album. I don't care what anyone says.
Do you still have it? Do you still have a copy?
Yeah, I actually got it signed because he came in years and years and years ago. He came and did a sort of a performance in the local commercial nightclub in my town, and it was on a Wednesday night, so I wasn't out of town. And I was like, I'll take that record and get it signed. And I sort of went through the middle of the crowd and just like held it up, and he signed it. Because like obviously no one else had any of his records, certainly not final stuff. So it was quite cool. But hopefully he would have thought it was all right, seeing as his first album. But hey,
That's awesome. Can you remember the first concert you ever attended?
yes, Pet Shop Boys. I went to see them at Wembley Arena with my dad when I was, I don't know, 12, 13-ish or something. Definitely very influential. Like, I always loved the Pet Shop Boys, and I, was really wanted to go, and my dad managed to get us tickets. We were right at the back, but I took some binoculars, and I was like trying to work out all the equipment that they had in their racks and stuff like that. But yeah, I remember that to this day. It was really, really, really good, and it was when they just done like introspective, so it was a really, really good era for their stuff.
Well, you know what? You brought up your father, and from what I've heard through other discussions, he was very influential in your music career. Is your dad did he have a lot to do with you becoming who you are today, musically?
Yeah, I mean, just from being so supportive, really. Both my parents, just good parents, giving me opportunities and stuff, and taking me to sports classes and things. And I mean, the main thing was to make sure I was doing well academically and everything. But I was really into music, and took me for piano lessons, and then I got interested in synthesizers and keyboards and stuff, because, if you're playing the piano and there's this thing that you can press the same keys and it sounds like something crazy, you're going to go after that. So yeah, I mean, like, I started producing some sort of electronic music when I was quite young, and especially back in those days, the equipment was way too expensive for you to be able to afford. Like now, if you've got a half-decent PC and some headphones and some sort of little MIDI keyboard, you could pretty much do anything you want, really, especially now. Some of the electronic music now is very, very simple, so you could do anything you want. There's not really any limitations. But back in those days, it was, you need a computer for the sequencing, drum machines, samplers, synthesizers and everything. So like... my dad just had a regular office job, like quite a high-powered one. He was busy on that all the time. But he was getting like, I don't know what, just, there was like Sound on Sound magazine and things like that. There were classifieds in the back of a lot of music technology magazines where if people were selling off their old gear, we'd be on the lookout for stuff. And so there'd be situations where somebody was like selling off a bunch of stuff from their studio, and there was kind of a drum machine that I really, 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 really wanted. And so we'd go and like buy, 2 or 3 things off this dude, and then my dad would like sell off the things we didn't want, and it would mean that I'd managed to get the drum machine I needed, and it hadn't really cost that much because we'd sort of made a profit on the other things, and it was all second hand anyway. But there's absolutely no way I could have afforded like a Roland D10 synthesizer when I was like 15 years old. So there was right through my late teens, I wouldn't have been able to do any of that stuff without my dad helping me. Luckily, I've been able to sort of pay him back since. But
that's awesome. And you know what? I love hearing it from you. I got to admit, it was DJ SS that first brought it up to me and told me to ask about your dad and his influence in your music career, because he said exactly what you were saying about the going to the salvage shops and trading for this to get that. It's amazing story.
It was because he doesn't play any instruments or anything, but he had an interest in computers and stuff, and was learning alongside me how everything worked, and MIDI and stuff like that. And we'd go to things like NAM. There was an equivalent. There was like the British computer. I can't remember what it was called. There were a couple of things a bit like NAM in London that were much smaller, and you could go around and try out all the new Roland and Korg and things like that. And I just go on these things and just sort of play synthesizers all day, and then my dad would like talk to the guys, like pretending we were going to buy something. But just like random missions, going and checking stuff out. And then dad would get into my music, and I took him. He's been to most of the seminal like drum and bass nights that there were back in the day. He went to Swerve. He went to Metalhead Sunday sessions. He picked me up from Metalhead Sunday sessions quite a few times. Been to Metalhead stuff at several of the different venues they used back in those days. Went to Movement with me. I managed to get him to come to a Helter Skelter once, at like one of the proper raves they did at the Sanctuary in Milton Keynes. I remember him liking the Gabba Room.
This is awesome.
But yeah, I mean, he's getting old now, so he doesn't come out raving with me anymore, but he still listens to drum and bass, like stuff that's on the specialist radio shows and things, and I burn him CDs of my podcast so he can check them out in the car and all that. But I think his era was definitely the sort of 96 to early 2000s. I think he sort of started losing interest after that on what's sort of going on. But yeah, sadly,
so did many others. So the scene here has kind of died off with your dad's ear as well. So I can empathize with that. I got to ask then, is he helping at all with this hot sauce venture you're on? Like, how's the gardening going?
No, he's staying out of that. He is a good gardener actually, but he's got quite a big garden at home, so he's just on a permanent battle trying to keep that going. But yeah, the hot sauce stuff is just I get on with that on my own really. Like he doesn't. I've got him to try it, but my mum and dad aren't really into spicy food or anything like that. But they think it's cool. They're supportive, but it's kind of arm's length.
Okay. I gotta ask, what was the spark, I guess, or the idea behind Beta Records? Like, what gave you the idea to want to start that label?
Well, it just sort of came naturally out of the trajectory of what I was doing with my music and my career and everything. So I was at university. Obviously, the way schooling goes in the UK, like you leave school at 16 or 18, and then you can go to university for 3 or 4 years. So I was at university from 18 to 21, and I was still studying. I was doing like science stuff, like nothing to do with music. But it was at that time I was really getting into drum and bass and started producing. And I never really wanted to DJ, but I realised that it was kind of important if you wanted to get your music out there a bit more. And a friend of mine started a student university radio station, so I basically learned to mix live on air doing the drum and bass show like in the middle of the night. So kind of I was at university doing my degree. SS picked up all my early stuff and was massively supportive, and it was when he was starting New Identity and they did the Jazz and Bass album, and he helped introduce me to Groove Rider, and I did that track called Secrets, which was on the Prototype years, and I was just going out a lot to drum and bass parties in London, trying to meet everybody, and I was, completely in the Formation Records camp at that point. And then, so Leroy put out my first album, Visions, and I'd done so much stuff through Formation and New Identity then, and I still did long afterwards. But kind of the next step that you would naturally do is you kind of have your own label with your own output, and where you're a bit more responsible for all the promotion and the advertising and the branding, and how your music gets out there. So I just wanted to have a bit more control and wanted to run a label as a business, so I could release my friend's music. I went to university at the same time as Newtone. He was up there, and Tim Shaw, who goes by the name Exile, released some of his first tunes, and there was Greg Packer from Australia who was doing a lot of stuff then. So there were lots of tunes I was playing that people had sent me that were totally what I was into, and I wanted to put them out. And just, running a label is a cool business, and it's sort of a logical thing to do if you're trying to make a career in music doing this stuff. And it still is now.
Yeah, and you know what? It sounds like the label actually came to you. It was like you didn't have to make a label. Everything that a label is started happening to you, and you just said, "Okay, I may as well run with this."
Yeah. I guess it's never been a major focus of what I'm doing. Running if running a label was like a huge big deal to me, the way Beta would look today would be different from how it does. It's always really been for me a means of releasing my own music how I wanted, and sort of being in charge of it. Back in the day, there was a lot more to it than there is now. It was all releasing vinyl and lots of advertising and all the sort of logistics of that kind of stuff. Nowadays, all you really need is a means to get stuff on all the online portals, and do a few mail shots and try and get a bit of press and stuff. And beyond, unless you're going to go for anything major, it's not too difficult. So yep.
How about the podcast itself? What inspired you to want to do episode 1 of the John B podcast?
Well, I'd already been putting all my DJ mixes that I'd been able to get hold of or record. I'd been putting them on my website just for download. I had a blog kind of thing as well. It was before people called it blogs. It was like the John B Online Diary or something. And I was always quite big on trying to make everything possible available on the internet to download or look at or whatever. And mixes are a good way of keeping people informed of how you're playing and what you're playing and what it sounds like, and trying to show people how good you are and how good the parties are and stuff. And then I'd already had a bunch of mixes that were up, but it wasn't completely organised and obvious which one came when and all that. So I just thought, I think that was when people had started talking about podcasts, and I'd got my head around how to actually do it. It's basically just an XML feed of, whatever you want to call it, but, radio show type things. And once you could submit your own podcasts to iTunes and get them on there, then it's sort of, that was the next step. Well, that's all we have to do, really.
It kind of begs the question then, as an artist, as a label owner, what do you think of the current state we're in with streaming, with downloading, with compensation of artists? Do you think it's important that musicians adapt and learn how to still make a lucrative career through these platforms, or do you think people need to pull back on the downloading? What's your...
I think it's great. I think it's better than ever. People that grumble about streaming and everything kind of forget that when we started out, sure, lots of people were buying vinyl, but the only people that were buying your singles and stuff were people that wanted to be DJs and went to independent record stores and stuff. So nowadays, anybody who wants to listen to your music can get to it on Spotify and iTunes and all of that stuff. The market has opened up insanely hugely. There's if suddenly loads of people want to check out your new track, they all can. Whereas back in the day, if your tune blew up and you'd only pressed 2,000 copies or something, what do? You've got to try and get some more out, and you've missed the wave of interest. So I think anybody that grumbles about streaming and things like that, doesn't really understand how things work and what the big picture is, and maybe they're not being accounted to properly, or what. Like, I mean, obviously you have to get a lot of streams of a song to make decent money, but if you've got a big back catalogue and you've made lots of tracks, and if your music's good, then, you know, you'll be cool. But you can't rely on just making a living from, you know, sales of music or streaming. You've got to be doing all the other stuff too. But you know, I think it's great. I think there was some thread I was involved in on Twitter a while ago where it sounded a bit like, oh, that was it. It was when everyone was like retweeting their like Spotify stats and being like, oh, I'm so humble to blah blah blah, and that just sort of seemed like really lame and try hard to me. But again, it's like one of those things where people on the internet misunderstand what you're grumbling about, and I was just grumbling about people being like boring, predictable, cheesy muppets rather than moaning about Spotify, which I think is great. So yeah,
no, it's a good answer. It's interesting too, the thing you're talking about when you were saying about releasing a record, only 2,000 copies, and then going to try and maybe do another press, but you've already missed the wave. So that's an interesting thing. I never even thought of that before, but
yeah.
I
mean, that's not such of a big deal. The missing the wave on that one. The big one to me is just the size of the market. And, you know, why do you DJ? It's because you want people to hear your music. And you know, if you want people to hear your music, you want it to be more available to everybody instantly. And streaming is a fantastic way of doing that. So as long as you're making music that's good enough, that differentiates itself from everyone else, and it's unique and interesting and not just another drop in the ocean of boring shit, and it's cool. If you are contributing to that and your music is boring and shit, then obviously you're not going to get that many people listening to it because it's not interesting and it sounds like everything else. So don't cry about it.
I'm with you. I'm sure this question's been asked before, and if I would have dug on the internet, I could have found the answer, but I want to hear it from you yourself. Where did the Up All Night sample come from?
The vocal?
Yes.
Yeah, just some random vocal sample CD I had. Like, you know, like nowadays you can buy sample packs and all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
Back in the olden days, you could buy these things called sample CDs. So they'd the same way things are now. There'd be ones that were all vocal. So and they were really expensive. They were sort of like £70 to £100 they were expensive because you were buying a license to be able to use what was on them in music without having to pay any further royalties. So there were lots of ones with vocal acapellas and things where somebody in a studio had like got a bunch of vocalists in, stuck them in front of a mic and said, "There you go, sing some random ad libs and stuff." And yeah, so there was some random old vocal samples CD I had, and there was a vocal session in there of some woman singing loads of random different ad lib lines, and I just found a few that worked together. I had to pitch them up and do a few bits and bobs to get them to work. But yeah, that's where the vocals came from. They're all just random phrases from like a really long session.
Yeah, and if I can actually, I'll bring this up on record with you, is I remember Leroy actually mentioning to me that he turned that song down. Do you know what I'm talking about? He says, mate, that song, he brought that to me, and I said that it just wasn't my flavor, and it became what it was. He's like, it's probably one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my career. Do you remember the background of trying to push that?
I don't remember that. I don't want to say that didn't happen or anything, but I don't remember that. Like the way I remember it was I'd already had something on Metalheads at that point. I'd done a track called Diversify that they put on Signed for Platinum Breaks, thanks to Storm had passed it on, I think. And then I remember starting Up All Night and knowing it would be perfect for Metalheads, and as far as I can remember and everything, I was always aiming it at Metalheads at that point.
All right. It was a long time ago. What year did that come out?
I certainly would have given it to SS as well, because like, you know, I would always be giving him all the stuff I was doing to play and all of that stuff. But I don't remember him like turning it down or me like trying to give it to Formation. But maybe it's a long time ago, so I don't know.
What year was it, John? When did that song come out?
I was thinking about that recently because I've been trying to figure out when like 18 years anniversaries of all random things I've done. I think like 2001. Pretty sure. I remember I still lived with my parents at that time because I remember doing it in the studio. I remember like playing in the beeps and finding the vocal and just knowing immediately it was going to be massive, and like wrote it in one evening. It just came together just so quickly because everything just sort of worked.
It's awesome. Okay, and what can we expect from John B in 2019?
Quite a lot, actually. I've just finished something literally this afternoon for Spearhead for a compilation. I think it's like sort of 10 years of Spearhead or 15, or I don't even know how many years it's been going now. I've done a couple of tracks with Digital, which are hopefully for Heads once we send them to them. I've almost finished something with Rennie LeVice that's going to surprise a lot of people. I'm putting out a big sort of compilation called Timelines, which is going to be kind of like a greatest hits alongside a lost DAT tapes portion of it. So one CD's worth will be greatest hits and like my singles from the last 5 years as well. And then the other half is going to be loads and loads of unreleased stuff that mostly was all done around about the time of like Secret, Sight Beyond, things that slipped through the cracks. A lot of stuff that was kind of Formation, New Identity era that we never really got around to putting out because I found all my DATs in the loft and recorded them into my Mac a while ago. So I'll be all like remastering that stuff, and that should be coming out quite soon because what I'm intending to do is tour it and do a lot of classic sets and like Blue Note era sets, because I've been doing a few of them lately and really enjoy it, and it's good fun. So
will we see you over here? Do you have any North American dates? Do you have any North American dates? You said you're going to tour it.
I should be, yeah. Like I keep talking to my agent. I had one due at the end of November. I was supposed to be playing in Virginia Beach, but I had like a weird health scare and I had to cancel it. I basically discovered I had really, really high blood pressure like the day before I was supposed to travel, and I had to go to hospital to get checked out and everything, and I was still sitting in hospital as my plane to America took off. So we're rescheduling that one and then doing a few more dates around that. So my current visa runs out in May, so I should be doing like a couple more trips before May. And then there'll be a little blackout period while I'm reapplying for the next one. But I think I've got some summer gigs, a couple of festivals and things as well. But they'll all be on my website.
I hope to see you out here. Okay, so you've got a lot of music. You got some touring going on. Sounds like you got some new singles. You're a busy, busy man. I've only got 2 more questions for you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're both fun ones, so let's have fun with this. Are you familiar with Mount Rushmore? You know, the 4 American president faces that are...
Yes.
Okay.
Never been there, never seen it, but that would be a nice thing to see. Where is Mount Rushmore? Is it Virginia?
You've got me. I'm guessing out in the west, but I could be in Virginia.
Right.
To be honest, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is.
No, there are no mountains in Virginia. Are there? Yeah, I'll Google it afterwards. I've never been anyway.
Oh my God!
So
you know what, John? We're gonna have to Google it right now. There's no reason I can't do this. Mount Rushmore, location for, and I'm sure there's listeners right now yelling at their radio. You idiots! It's at Keystone.
You're no patriot.
You're right. South Dakota. I'm Canadian, man. You can. South Dakota. So it's in South Dakota.
South Dakota. Oh, yeah, I should have known that, actually, yeah.
I knew it was west. I got that much.
Yeah.
But, okay, so let's say we were creating a Mount Rushmore for the jungle industry. Who would your 4 faces for jungle's Mount Rushmore be?
Oof, jungle or like my own personal...
Your own personal.
Drum and bass.
Your own personal drum and bass.
Goldie, Fabio, Groove Rider... Oh, who would the 4th one be? I'm just thinking of like people who sort of forged my sound and who sort of were very influential to me. Then, well, yeah, fuck SS, fucking hell, yeah.
There you go.
Goldie, Fabio, Groove Rider, and SS. That's That's for me, yeah.
That's amazing. And obviously, you come with a very heavy '80s influence in your background, right? Like you grew up liking, I'm guessing, bands like Duran Duran, Depeche Mode.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I absolutely love the '80s stuff, but I'm just a bit too young to have witnessed it properly firsthand. I mean, obviously, I remember, because I was born in '77, so a lot of the really cool '80s that I really love now, I wasn't sort of musically aware enough to hear when they were happening first time around. So I kind of, my true, like, really getting into the '80s happened kind of after university, really, from about like 22 upwards. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I had no idea, John. Yeah, I guess that kind of happened to me with a lot of music. I say a lot of music, once I arrived, the people I listened to were already dead. Like, I got to hip hop after Tupac and Biggie. I got to drum and bass after Stevie. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I've always arrived just after the people I've idolized have passed away. And it's sad, but it's true. There's still great music to be had. It's not to say that Eminem was amazing.
And also, if you're looking back to 20 years ago, like, if you suddenly get into a band now, it's easy to educate yourself quickly and cheaply thanks to streaming and the internet. Like, when I was 15, if I wanted to listen to a band that I'd never heard of before, like, if I heard it on the radio, then fine. But if I wanted to listen to it again, I'd have to save up to go and buy a CD. And, like, you don't have much money when you're a kid, so you have to really be very careful about what CDs you're going to buy. And because once you have, that's what you got to stick with for a long time. So the stuff that I listened to shitloads when I was a kid was stuff that I had the CDs or the tapes of, and that was like Nine Inch Nails and Depeche Mode, and grunge happened sort of when I was 16 to 18. So it was Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots, and then just like jazz and classical and anything. My dad had like loads and loads of records in the house, so there was anything that was kind of classic I'd be able to check out, which was very, very helpful. But if there was anything much more current and kind of underground dance music-y or kind of like cheesy 80s stuff, I had to wait till like I was older and I could get on Amazon and buy some CDs.
How about, do you remember sitting there waiting while the radio would play and they'd tell you which songs are coming up, and one of them was one of the songs you needed for your CD, so you'd actually wait, and as soon as the radio played it, you'd hit the play button and record.
And you hit record,
and you just sit there and wait for it to finish.
I'll do that, recording the top 40 and stuff. And then, I mean, I don't live in London, but where I live is sort of, I don't know, it's an hour drive or sort of 45, depends on whereabouts, but Kiss FM, like, which was, I think it was legit by the time I was in my late teens, but Kiss FM was originally a pirate and then it got a license.
Really?
And it's where like Hype and Frost had a radio show, Fabio and Groove Rider had their show on there, and then there was Colin Favor had an amazing show like The Abstract Dance. It was kind of like techno, house techno, but kind of post-rave, I don't know. And Colin Dale as well, I used to listen to him. So that, because I was too young and still in school and being a square, so my sort of early dance music education came from listening to Kiss FM in the evenings and taping that, just recording the whole shows because they were on late at night, and then listening to them the next day and stuff.
Sure. All right, last question for you, John. If you could put 5 items in a vault that would encapsulate the rave, what would those 5 items be?
Well, it depends what I like about raves that I would want people from the future to savor, or the grim realities of.
Let's go with the grim realities. I like the grim realities.
Oh God, I don't know. Well, it all depends on what kind of rave you're talking about and stuff. I don't know.
I'll tell you what. I'll get some. You can put anything in there. You can put a whole club. You can put people.
I think a time capsule to remind people of what's cool about dance music and drum and bass. I'd put a bunch of flyers in from like sort of 97, early 2000 era, all the Renegades hardware and Ram at the end and Metalheads and Movement and Swerve and everything like that, and a couple of tape packs from those sorts of things. Suppose one of those horns, the rave horns.
Yeah,
you got to have one of them. it's hard. I mean, you're talking about physical paraphernalia, which
Not
is
necessarily.
not really what it's about.
You could put whole clubs in there. You can put, like, some people have put the City of London in the vault.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about. Oh, okay. Well, it would just be the seminal clubs of me growing up for drum and bass. So it'd be Sunday Sessions, Movement, Swerve, The End, and then if it was like thinking about my life and my career after that, it'd be I don't know, a bit of Miami, even though it doesn't really love drum and bass that much, but it was always special to me. Some Pirate Station and World of Drum and Bass stuff from Russia. Let It Roll, that's definitely worth it nowadays.
I think one of your crazy ties has to go in there too. I've seen you in some crazy ties.
If it's specific to me.
Yeah, well, it's fun.
Yeah, I don't really wear ties that much anymore. If I do, I just wear like a smart white shirt and a black tie, going for the monochrome thing. My sort of nowadays, my sort of cruisy DJing outfits are more just like weirdly freaky, offensive T-shirts, rather than the sort of custom-made stuff I used to wear. It's a bit much these days, and like electro clash and the electro sort of fluorescent neon kind of stuff is sort of, I don't really think that many people would get it. It's not really so relevant now, that style of dressing or anything, but it works well at the time.
You always have been someone who's been extravagant, even up to your hairdo, John. Are you telling me you don't do your hair like you used to?
Oh, my hair's still pretty cool. It's better than it used to be, actually.
Yeah,
but you can't just keep dressing the same way, doing the same thing. Like, that's too easy and too boring. So
Well, no, that's part of your personality is your style. Like, I don't know if you've heard, but Steve Jobs and even Bill Gates say they don't have a closet full of clothing. It's the same outfit because they don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
You've heard that, right?
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, Zuckerberg does it as well. Yeah, I think that's for me day to day. I just wear all black, but that's the DJ musician stereotype. But it means you're not bothering about wondering what you're going to wear. That's perfectly acceptable, but that's kind of for a different reason. That's for efficiency and productivity, and so you can focus on the things that really matter
to them. Yes.
But stage wear and all that stuff's a different matter.
Well, okay.
I've got a loft full of it all, so if I need anything freaky deaky, I've got plenty.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I want to talk to you for a few more minutes, but I'm going to sign off to the listeners. Can you just stay on the phone with me for a minute?
Okay.
All right. There he was, guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to him. I love talking to him. Mr. John B. Growing up listening to this guy, loving this guy for many, many years, so I really appreciate him taking the time to talk. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, peace out.